Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the BLON Z200. This is the latest one from BLON, and out of all the releases as of late, um, which haven't exactly been the best, I want to start by saying that this is probably the one that is the showing the most potential. Obviously, that saying doesn't go without some less positive aspects being pointed out, which I'll do in a second. But anyway, this is the box. Belief, let music burn, opportunity, never give up, annotation, music and dreams. At least the spelling seems to be correct. Very simple, very much BLON style of the 03 era and 01 era, so very basic. You remove this, and inside over here you have one set of tips. Sorry, over here you have one set of tips, nothing special. The IEMs came over there. I mean, it's packaging at its most simple form. Okay, that's it. As for the IEMs, I've got two of them here that I'll explain a little bit better this one here in a second. But this is the IEM itself, darkish purple color. This is the black one, as you can see. Okay, and it's got this kind of drawing or logos on its faceplate, kind of very Moondrop Starfield kind of vibe going on there. The cable, by looking at it, you might get the perception that it's removable, but it isn't. Okay, it's not a removable cable, and the cable itself is basically the BLON cable of always. Okay, it's not good, it's not bad, it's wire, let's put it that way. The IEMs, they've got this form factor which is reminiscent of the Shure stuff, 535 and so on, which the plus point of it is that it actually fits very nicely. It fits very nice. I mean, it's again a shell very reminiscent of the BLON 05 and 05S, which as well I thought was a nice fitting shell. So not as problematic as the 03 or as the 01. The Prometheus wasn't too bad actually. The Mini as well wasn't too bad. But in terms of this particular model, it's actually not bad. It's pretty decent. It's got two nozzles, as you can see over there, one for the front, one for the back. And that's it. I mean, it fits nicely, isolates pretty decently. It's not heavy. It's got some weight to it, which is nice and inspiring in terms of build quality. And definitely, you can see it's well built. My point of this, of not scored of, but by what I just don't understand is, if you are launching an IEM which will be competing with other $20 IEMs, KZ, EDX-Ultra, CCA Lyra, 7Hz Zero, and quite a few others. I'm just not going to carry on now the other list. Make sure that you are on par with those IEMs with regards to certain things. Removable cable, come on, it doesn't make sense. If I can buy a $15 EDX-Ultra which has a removable cable, or a $20 7Hz Zero which has a removable cable, why can't I buy a $20 BLON that has a removable cable, especially when you have the BL01, which is even cheaper and has a removable cable? So I'm not happy with that aspect, okay? And that really is, in terms of the hardware, the only aspect which I want to call attention to. They have fallen behind, okay? As for what we are wanting to know, what does it sound like, what doesn't it sound like? Well, anyway, I'll get into that in a second. Let me just show you here this one so that this gets clarified. This is a project that I undertook this weekend, okay? And it's basically, I opened up the shell, retuned it, and then had a MMCX connector. It's not the cleanest of installations of the MMCX connector because it was a very long connector. I'm looking, well, I've just found the smaller ones, and I will be doing another one of these mods on another Z200 that I have with the smaller connector, so that everything actually, you know, looks more professional and more neat and decent. But what this allowed me to do was obviously to now be able to put different cables on there, and it shows that they could have done an MMCX connector if they wanted. You know, maybe a 2-pin would have been a little bit harder, but an MMCX connector they could have easily have done if they wanted, and it's a pity. Okay, back to the sound, which is what you want to know. In a nutshell, and let me just get here the 03. Okay, this is the 03. The Z200 is nothing more, nothing less than a more emphasized BLON 03. Period. If the BLON 03 was V-shaped to a certain extent, this has taken that a further step. There's more energy in the lower frequencies, 3-4 dBs. There's more energy in the higher frequencies. The peaks are more accentuated. So basically, some of the magic that you had here on the 03 has been, in my opinion, purposely lost here, because the driver quality of this driver is very good. I have absolutely no doubts that this driver is of the same family as the driver used in the 03, and as of the same family of the driver used in the BLON in the Tangstrom Oxygen. No doubt about it. Physically, they look the same. I've opened quite a few pairs of 03s, so visually they look very similar, although that, you know, it's worth what it's worth. But in terms of the performance that they give, it's very similar. And although there's more energy here on the Z200 than on the BLON, and later on in the graphs you will see that, the overall graph is very similar. Okay, very similar. And then once modified, and I've also got a modified BLON, which I've called the Bloxygen, the performance even equals itself more. So with that, having said that, the driver quality here is spot on. I mean, BLON's core business is manufacturing drivers for other companies. So in terms of the driver quality, it's there. In terms of the sound, because they've overemphasized things, they've spoiled and taken away the magic that the 03 had. So the mids are excessively warm. There's more bloat into of the bass into the mids. And the sound sounds more recessed in the whole vocal area. Vocals, male vocals, are overemphasized. Female vocals have lost some of their sparkle. I mean, it's not a bad sounding IM. I'm not saying it's a bad sounding IM. What I'm saying is that it's just lost those characteristics that made the 03 stand out and be the beast that it was back in late 2018, early 2019 when it was launched, and kind of be the success story that the 03 is. Because the reality is, like it or hate it, it is a freak of an IM. It plays way above what it should be able to play. And you know, let's not get into the fact that it was luck or it was tuned by the person that it was tuned, and that it actually uses a decent driver. It is a good earphone. Simple. Come on, people. You know, and it's been a reference for many other companies to build their earphones to combat the 03. Okay, and this has spoiled it. It's better. I mean, I like this more than the 07. Definitely, the 07 is a total mess in my opinion. 07 is, the driver is a joke. It's only the shell is worthwhile. With a decent driver, who knows? Maybe yes. The Max, again, a very poor implementation of drivers, and although the concept was good, no. The only real success story for BLON is the 03, and to a certain extent the 5S, because the rest have all been mediocre attempts, in my opinion, to replicate this performance, and they've all failed. And the only one that has come close or closer is this one. Okay, how does it then stand up next to other class favorites? Like, I mean, for example, the 7 hertz Soul Notes 0. It's no comparison. I mean, this is a bloated mess. By, if I'm to be more aggressive or harsh in my word, this is a bloated mess. This is polished. This is like eating a very cheap hamburger, and this is eating a proper Wagyu beef. Perfectly executed mids, very nice highs. You know, there's very little to flaw here. The price is spot on, $20. This, by comparison, is just all about the boom. It's got lots of it. It'll be fun, but you'll get tired of it after a while, because it's just too much, you know. And if you want to listen to some proper music, you know, and get some engagement out of that, you won't. This is good just for EDM, for rap, for that. It's as simple as that. So compared to the Zero, it stands absolutely no chance. Compared to, for example, the CCA Lyra, again, very much priced at the same price point. Beautifully built, the Lyra, no issues really there. Using the latest generation driver from KZ. Okay, the sound, yeah, is a little bit bright and so on and so forth. Maybe not the ideal. It wasn't exactly my favorite, I have to say. But overall, nice. It's got a nice sound. It's way more balanced and coherent than the Z200. Way more. And the simple fact that it's got a detachable cable, I would take it over the Z200 as well. And again, if you are one like me that likes playing around, if you play around a little bit with the Lyra, the results you can get are pretty impressive. I mean, like I said, the XUD driver is a good driver, and this is the latest version of that driver. And they've done a good job. Another one, which I think as well made sense to talk about and compare to the Z200 is the EDX-Ultra. This and the EDA balanced are my favorite ones of this latest generation of single DDs from KZ, and this, again, way more coherent than the Z200. It's got equally nice, fun bass, but it's more polished, it's more clean, and it's not down to the driver quality here being superior there, it's just down to the tuning of the Z200. And then the mids are way more well done. There's no peaks, there's no, it's everything sounds way more cleaner over in the Ultra than it does on the Z200. I mean, look, even a Zero, okay, which suffers with the same problem, fixed cable, and actually doesn't have the crazy amount of bass as well of the Z200, I would take the Zero over the Z200, because everything here is being done in a more coherent manner, and I prefer to be a little bit bass light by comparison to the Z200, although I think it's actually got more than ample bass, mind you. I prefer that over that. Even the cable, which is fixed, like I mentioned, is of a better quality, superior quality. It doesn't tangle up as easily. It's just nicer. It's just an overall nicer IEM. Once you do modify it, and that's, you know, depends on if you want to go down that road. You don't have to put a terminal. You can modify it without actually putting the terminal. So you can open it up and just do what has to be done inside and then externally. Then that's a different story. Then and later on in the graphs you will see. Then the Z200 starts to shine. The bass energy, I've reduced it significantly. Basically, I've kind of followed the Elysian X bass curve. So a very nice glide into the mid bass and then into the mids. Nice sub bass, more than enough rumble there. Plateaued more the whole mids. So everything after the pin again is more flattish, not so peaky up and down, and it just makes the Z200 a totally different beast. I mean, it's on par with the Bloxygen, for example. I think, excuse me, I think the Bloxygen will only outdo slightly the Z200 in the extension because of the way the shell is. That's all. Nothing else, because in terms of the driver itself, I'm almost certain it's very much the same driver. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? Stock format in terms of technicalities, just to quickly, you know, closed-in soundstage, in my opinion. Not really great imaging because of this all this excessive. It's not darkness. It's just too much, you know. Detail retrieval is it's what it is. So not great. There are instances where at least the tonality is good. There are instances where you see that the timbre, in that aspect, yes, it comes across nicely. But those instances are far in between. They're not as much as they could be if it had been properly tuned, in my opinion. And then, and again, I repeat, that's where I think it's a pity. It's really a pity because the potential is there. Nice shell, fits nicely. Just needed to have removable cable. That's one issue solved, and then physically it would be solved, and then properly tuned. Come on, I mean, if I can do it, I'm sure they have capable people of doing it. And if they don't have, hey, I don't mind doing it for them. They can. If BLON, if you're hearing me, contact me. I'll do it for you. I will tune your IEMs for you. Not a problem. But please, you know, don't continue to put out stuff like this, which is so disappointing, especially for die-hard fans like myself. I mean, I've lost count of the amount of 03 sets I have. I've lost count, I'll be honest. I know I'm crazy. I've got OCD, fine. I like the set. I bought multiples. I've got multiples. I've got more modified different ways because I like it. And like me, I'm sure there's many other people out there that enjoy the 03. And to this day, will buy the 03. And if I have to choose between the 03 and this in stock format, 03 any day. Period. Anyway, guys, that's my take on the Z200. Not really something that I would recommend, but hopefully somebody will hear them and maybe they'll do an improvement on this Z200 Pro or something. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask. If I take some time to answer sometimes, please don't take that the wrong way. Don't think it's me being disrespectful. It's just I've got a lot in my plate, a lot, and I try and do the best I can with the limited amount of time that I have. All right. Anyway, guys, peace. Take care. See you. Hey guys, so welcome to the graph section of my Z200 review. And well, what better way to start with the graph straight away of the Z200? And as you can see, there's loads of emphasis on the lower frequencies. Let's put it typical BL fashion. Actually, let me just put the graph of the 03 and you will see something very interesting, which is basically what I also said on the review. So there we go. That's the graph of the 03. I very much believe that this driver used in the Z200 is of the same family as the driver used in the 03. Not only by what you see here in terms of the graph, but when you actually listen to it, you see a lot of reminiscence of the 03 sound. So, you know, when you see here the 03 by itself, it's an IM with a big focus on the low end, but it's decently done. There's not that alarming amount of bleed into the mids. The mids have always been one of the tonally more correct. The mids have always been one of the more correct things that the BLON is capable of doing, especially considering the price. The tonality of it, everything is very nice. There's no unnecessary crazy peaks or anything. Everything is pretty decent, and even the extension up top is actually quite good. I mean, when the Troponin Melee came out, there was talk that the BLON had served as an inspiration for that. And if I now put the graph of the Melee, you will see the similarities. I mean, they are tremendous similarities. The Melee has got a little bit more cleaned up, let's say, upper mids, so vocals can perhaps come across a little bit more present, but then it loses that extension that the BLON had. Even if that extension of the BLON wasn't the ideal in terms of not being the most polished, there was still more extension in the BLON as compared to the Melee. But anyway, this is about the Z200, and here again I'm putting the Z200, and the Z200 is as I mentioned, basically an 03 with a little bit more extra energy, both in the low end and in the upper end, so accentuating even more the V signature that the Z200 has, and not necessarily that being the ideal or being a good thing. I actually think it's a pity that they've well, not only given us a driver that, or an earphone that has no cable connection with the BLON 03 had, and many others at this price point have, but also it's a pity that they are underperforming the driver used in the Z200, because again, I say the driver of the Z200 is a very decent driver, and proof of that, of how decent he is what I'm about to show you, which is that I actually modified it, and that's the graph there of it modified. So brought down the excessive bloatness of the bass. Actually, if I put here the 03, it's even lower than the 03. So brought that down, cleaned up the mids nicely in terms of trying to make them a little bit more flat. So there's no peaks here at 2 point something and at 5 point something. It's flatter, and maintain the same kind of energy up top. This cleaned up completely the presentation of the Z200. It sounds totally different. I mean, if I now again take the Z200 and put it, for example, next to the BLON, the Melee, you can see the similarities now are even more so. No longer is the Melee so let's say polished up or improved in the mids and upper mids as compared to the Z200's more peaky presentation. It's very similar. Honestly, they are both very similar, with the advantage of the Z200 again being having more extension. So I would say the Z200, once modified, is a Melee 2.0, is a Melee that's been improved in its upper frequency response. For the sake of comparison as well, if you guys remember me making the Bloxygen, which was again a modified BLON, which I thought deserved it because the driver of the BLON is a decent driver. I'm sure again that it's of the same family as the driver used in the Oxygen. Here is the graph of the Bloxygen. Let me just align it with the graph of the Z200 modified, and as you can see, almost identical. This again confirms my theory, or not confirms, but again gives more weight to my theory of the similarities of these two drivers in terms of what family they are from. The Bloxygen, those of you that actually have done the mod will confirm that it plays amazingly well, and the Z200 modified in the same fashion. The graph speaks for itself. It is very good. I mean, just for the sake of comparison, look, and this was actually the inspiration for me in terms of what sort of bass I wanted. Look at the bass and the curve of the Elysian X compared to both the Bloxygen and the Z200, and look at that. Look at that, spot on, almost identical to the dot. I mean, for me it's identical. Until 2K, Elysian X, Bloxygen and Z200 Acros, they are basically graphing the same way. In terms of sound, I know what the Acros, Z200 and the Bloxygen sound like. The Elysian, I don't know, but in terms of graphic wise, if this graph can in any way represent what the bass of the Elysian might sound like, then I'm happy. I'm super happy. Comparing, let's take away these modified ones. Let's go back to stock. So stock Z200, there we go. Comparing the Z200 with some of the now more prominent class leaders, and one of them, of course, I'm talking about is the 7 Hertz. There we go. You know, where in the 7 Hertz you get a very nice, coherent, clean, mid-centric presentation. Nothing is in excess, nothing is bloated. If anything, as I've mentioned already, maybe just a little bit more energy in the bass would have been welcomed. The BLON, by comparison, is a bloated mess. I mean, it's it's again, like I said in my review, if I have the choice between BLON 03 and Z200, I'll take the BLON 03. Okay, yes, the fit in the Z200 is better, as I mentioned, but the BLON 03 has the detachable cable. And for me, for the price difference, it now is around $5 between one and the other. Definitely the 03. And that's why I say it's a pity that BLON didn't put the terminals on the Z200, because if they had put the terminations on the Z200, like the BL101, and had just cleaned up the tuning a little bit, they could have a winner. They could now be taking a big chunk of the pie, which is now being almost occupied by the 7Hz Zero. 7Hz Zero, there you go, as you can see. The other Zero, the Tanstrum, again, by comparison, a total mess. The BLON, bloated, not clean like it should be. And then I thought it'd be maybe interesting as well to compare it to the EDX-Ultra. There we go. That's the EDX. Let me just. Oh, by the way, the EDX. I'm gonna put it at 1K, but this difference here is not as significant as it is. That's why I actually then equalized them at 500K, because that's what it sounds like to me. Okay, there is a little bit more bass on the BLON. Not necessarily cleaner, no, because the bass of the EDX is not only very good in terms of quantity, but very good in terms of quality. And then the response is kind of similar-ish. The EDX is more linear. It's a bit way better tuned IEM, way better tuned, and at the price of, like, you can get it now for $16. Again, it would probably be an IEM that I would choose over the BLON if you're not in the mood to modify and do changes to it and so on and so forth. However, having just said what I just said, if you do modify the BLON, and let me just again center this everything nicely, then it's a completely different story. The similarities between the two sets become almost identical in terms of graph wise, as you can see, but sound wise, the BLON, it just has something there which is very, very satisfying. I can't really explain, but the modified BLON, and I think it's down to basically the quality of the driver, obviously. But anyway, guys, that's the graph section of the BLON. I think an IM with a lot of potential, which unfortunately was maybe just not given its deserved merit or deserved attention, or whatever you want to call it. Do I wreck it? Honestly, not really. I don't really wreck it. Like I said, BLON 03 is a better option if you want to go for a BLON. And then you have other options which just make more sense. I mean, I would take the 7Hz Zero. I would take the Tanstrum Zero over the BLON as it stands. If, however, you are willing to modify it, then yes, it's an IM which will become very, very good. Again, I would even take the KZ Ultra over the stock BLON. That's it, guys. Well, as always, like and subscribe. If there's any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye bye.